I want to take a quick look at the traffic cameras on I-10. Is that right? We're going to have St. Tammany Public Information Officer Michael Vincino on the phone with us as well. So, Michael, are you with me right now?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are things in St. Tammany Parish? We just saw one area where clearly the winds ripped off the side of a building. Any idea how much damage you guys are going to have to deal with?
I think there's damage parish-wide. Obviously, we had a lot of heavy rain parish-wide, and there was high water on roads on both sides of the parish. We talked earlier this morning about tornadoes and the possibility of those. While we have to wait for confirmation, I think if you walk around the Eden Isles area or the Avery Estates neighborhood, I think you'll be surprised if they don't see there was a tornado that went through that community. I was actually there this morning, and there was a couple of trees on homes, fences were knocked down, and obviously it was still raining. It was about, as of 30 minutes ago, it was still raining in Slidell. So that's obviously the real-time concern, but as the next day or two or three come along, we have to worry about the rivers rising. And that's a legitimate concern. Just yesterday afternoon, the Folsom area flooded, not because of rain, but because of water that was moving south from Washington Parish that had rained the day before. And so we got rain. Washington Parish received rain, so now that water is going to drain south into Lake Pontchartrain, but it's going to move through our community. So we may have some riverine flooding over the next day or two or three.
We were hearing yesterday reports of homes and things damaged because of that flooding in Folsom. Any idea what is happening and what the situation is there right now?
Looking at the river forecast, it looks like the river level came down, but it went back up because of the amount of rainfall that we've gotten today. And again, it has to drain the water not only from St. Tammany, but to drain the water from Washington as well. So it's right back up, and it looks like it's going to crest sometime tomorrow, which is good news, and that water can start going down. But when you talk about the rivers and the flooding, we rely on a gravity drainage system. So the water must move through the ditches, through the canals, through the rivers. But when everything is swollen, it's going to take a lot longer for that water to go out. When Lake Pontchartrain is swollen, which is where the water is going, it takes a lot longer to put that water out of the rivers, which also means it's going to take longer for the water to drain out of all of our communities. So, this could be a couple of days here, and hopefully that, we'll see how much rain that our partners and our neighbors in the north got, and that'll obviously drain through St. Tammany, and we'll see how that impacts us. But our forecast, we received one of our forecasts of about 9 to 10 inches of rain in the Slidell area within the last 12 hours. And using our metrics, that's equal to about a 50 to 100-year storm event. So we received a lot of rain, and put that on top of the river, it could be an issue for quite some time.
What is the situation with the Pearl over there in Slidell? That is typically a problem spot for you guys. Are there any neighborhoods? We mentioned Avery Estates seeing some rain. I actually saw an alligator on social media earlier walking around, which is not that unusual for that neighborhood in particular. But what are you watching at this point?
Well, it's the Pearl River near Pearl River is the forecast that we usually look at when there's concerns, and there's obviously a low-lying area back there, and I believe the neighborhood is River Gardens, those folks, there's going to be water in the neighborhoods. I mean, looking at the forecast, it's not going to start going down until next Thursday. So the water is going to be high, and this is according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, their river gauges, and so it's not quite peaked yet. It's about 15.5 now, and it's going to peak at 17.5. It's going to teeter right at major flood stage, and then start to come down next week, and then obviously a lot can change in a week. So hopefully we don't have any more rain to put on top of that, because things could become catastrophic pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, those are areas that people are somewhat used to the flooding, but
yes.
It's still difficult every single time it happens, because a lot of people get trapped in their homes and they can't get out. And have you all had any people asking for rescue at this point?
No, not to my knowledge, and there may have been reports or requests to the fire districts or the sheriff's office who have the high water vehicles. I know there was one yesterday in the Folsom area, and an elderly lady was concerned with her dogs, so she called the fire district, and they came and they performed a high water rescue and took her to safety. It obviously wasn't water in the home, but it was a concern about being able to get out of her neighborhood if the water comes any higher.
And how's the east side of the parish? We should probably touch on that too before I let you go. But with the Chifuncta, the Bogachita River, how are those areas dealing right now?
Well, I'm looking at the Boga Chitto, and the bigger concern is further north, and it's in Mississippi, but that water has to flow through Washington and then St. Tammany Parish before it ultimately drains. But those water levels are high, and they're almost at major flood stage and that's expected to crest tomorrow. But again, that water is going to crest and drain through Washington and St. Tammany Parish. So our water is not going to go down. And in fact, it may go up because not only do we have our own rain that we've received, we have to drain the rain that our neighbors received as well. So we have to prepare for these things. And, the folks who live near those rivers, they know what, you're talking 19, 20, 21 feet, what those different amounts mean and how that may impact their neighborhood and what covers the road and what gets close to the doorstep or, what those different amounts are. But it's still it's obviously an inconvenience. And, all of the rivers in St. Tammany Parish, our eyes are on those rivers because while, yes, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration forecasts them, we could have gotten a little more rain or a little less rain, and that may vary depending on the impacts of St. Tammany.
What are you watching most closely for tonight?
Well, I think the concern is to let this rain get out of, especially the eastern area. Just thinking yesterday when we were looking at the forecast, it was supposed to be maybe northern or western St. Tammany that was supposed to get the heavy rain. Well, it ended up being in the Slidell area. And sure, we still did receive a lot of rainfall in western St. Tammany, but it's still raining in the east, and so there was a lot of rain received there. And you put that on top of the already soaked ditches and the swollen rivers, and there's going to be flooding conditions pretty quickly. So, we're obviously concerned with, doing damage assessments, driving around, seeing how many people were damaged. And I can tell you, I drove through a neighborhood. I had a relative who had a tree fall in their home, so I went to go help them. And driving down the street, there were several homes that the roof was damaged, that there was a tree on the home, that the fence was knocked over, a wall was knocked over. And that was in the Eden Isles area. So it looked like they may one of the bigger concerns was in the Eden Isles area, and then obviously Avery Estates as well. But our crews are out doing damage assessments now to be able to get an accurate number of how many people were truly impacted.
Before we let you go, any advice for people who may be living in those areas that are at risk of flooding tonight?
Just listen to you guys. The people who live back there, they know what the amount of rain means. A lot of those folks have rain gauges, and they track the river gauges. Just please be aware. We don't want anybody to be surprised, and just to stay alert. The good thing this morning is that I know a lot of people in southeast Louisiana were awoken by tornado warnings, which is a great thing. And just make sure you continue to have a way to receive those notifications, not just for this event, but events moving forward. It could be the difference of life or death.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Michael Vinsnow with the St. Tammany Parish government. We appreciate it.